I grew up in New York City's borough of Queens, surrounded by water, in an island town called Broad Channel, a place where children were taught to swim before they could read or even walk. My family lived on high ground, on the busy Cross Bay Boulevard, but the town's quiet side streets with their vacant lots and salty marshes were my real playgrounds, where shallow, weedy backyards gave way to rocks and pilings with retaining walls, to docks with rowboats that bobbed in the wide canals. This was a world of killie traps, crab cages, and clamshells, of mud and muskrats and mysterious things that were delivered daily by shifting currents. My memories float, some submerged yet, in this dark water. Around the corner at the end of 14th Road, a long gray boardwalk, contorted by decades of ice storms and hurricanes, led to a row of houses standing firm above Jamaica Bay on barnacle-encrusted poles sunk deep into the mud. The tide flowed high and low beneath these homes, and 50 yards away, a wooden World War II-era cargo barge sat wedged into a muddy shoreline. That barge was our beach club, our summer paradise. It was a place where half-naked kids gathered to sun and to swim, a Thomas Eakins painting translated to a weedy, marshy side street in Queens. When teenagers were there, usually at high tide, which was the very best time for swimming, we younger kids stayed away. One hot summer high tide day, while a group of teenagers smoked and laughed and sunned themselves on the barge, some of the younger boys climbed to the roof of a vacant two-story house at the end of the adjacent boardwalk. One by one, a line of those boys jumped off the roof into the water below. Competing for best cannonball, each boy hugged his knees to his chest midair, entering the water butt first with a big splash. Each in turn then swam to the barge, then ran back out to the end of that splintered boardwalk and climbed again to the top of the roof. I watched for a while from shore before joining the line of wet, breathless boys climbing up the side of that house, getting hand and footholds where I could find them. I began my ascent by climbing on top of a wooden box, then shinnying quickly across an oil tank, the metal hot on my bare skin. I reached for a piece of trellis, a windowsill, a rain gutter, then finally the drip edge of the shingles. My heart pounded in my temples as I pulled myself onto the roof, scraping my elbows and belly on the rough, hot asphalt. I stood up, then immediately sat down and hugged my knees. The water seemed awfully far away. It was too dangerous to climb back down, and I sat on those hot shingles while the other boys passed me again and again. They hopped and hollered and leapt repeatedly off the roof, flying out over the boardwalk and splashing into the bay. My mouth dry with fear, I surveyed the horizon while trying to figure a way out of my predicament. And I sat there for so long, pretending to enjoy the view, that I attracted the attention of the teenagers on the barge. One girl shouted words of encouragement, but the older boys jeered and threatened to call the volunteer fire department, the Volleys, to come and rescue me. The heat rising from the tar and the shingles cooked my thighs and the soles of my feet, but as the minutes dragged, the humiliation made my ears feel even hotter. Accepting finally that I really had no choice, I stood and walked slowly to the drip edge of the shingles, as if aligning my toes with the edge of a diving board. Though my stomach lurched and my legs trembled, I leapt off the roof into the abyss. A salty splash, cool silence, then cheers and applause from all the kids on the barge and the roof. And I jumped 5 more times that afternoon.